Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Morning Rush here on Metro Television with me, Desi the Star Boy, and GHANAIAN of Wache. So we mentioned earlier before the break that we want to speak to Ghanaian living abroad. We want to just understand how it is like for students there, how's life like, especially in the US where a lot of Ghanaians are going. And so we've got Victor KOJO DEI. He's a PhD student at the University of Kentucky, USA, on Zoom. And we get to speak to you. KOJO, good morning and welcome to the show. Hello, KOJO. KOJO, you might have to... Okay, yes, we can hear you now. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Hope you're well.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Now, let's get into it. Before everybody travels, I'm sure that they must have gone through some, YouTube or socials to find out how life is, on the other side when you're moving there. For you, what were some of the shocks, as a student from Ghana going to the States to continue your studies and all that? Let's begin with that point.
Thank you. That's a very brilliant question. And when you talk about the shocks, there are thousands of the shocks, because the truth is most of us who travel outside Ghana, from Ghana to the United States, if I'm going to be very honest to you, we don't get a lot of information. The exciting part is you have admission, you have been admitted to a school, you have funding, and you're moving. And as your co-host said, you want to jackpot, so you are moving, and that's all. We are usually misinformed as to what the reality is on the ground until you touch base. And then it's you so hard, and then you don't know what to do. But then you can't go back because you have set yourself up on this journey, and you need to face the reality and deal with it. So talking about shocks, there are hundreds and thousands that I can name, which usually result in becoming very daunting on us as students, getting people into mental health issues. For example, you may think that, well, we speak English, so I'm in the United States, and so it's an English-speaking country, so I'm cool. But then you realize that there's a language gap there. Certain expressions are not the same. You go to the classroom, and sometimes professors are teaching, and you're just staring at them, and you are not even getting what they are talking about, and you just have to nod along. And then you come back, and you are lost. The weather is also a factor. If you are not very fortunate to be in an area where it could be very, very cold, and unfortunately you are coming in the spring semester, which is between January and April, then it's also very worse, because this is totally different from what you are used to. Now, people are living in communities where it's very hard to find Black people. When I talk of Black people from your country. And so in terms of the food, everything is different. You want some fufu and some banku, and you realize this is not about fufu and banku matter. What is available is something which is so new to you, you are not used to. But that's the only thing that you have. And it's a very, very lonely place. It can be very, very, very lonely. Like I said, if you are in a university where you don't have a lot of people that you can really relate with, it could be very, very lonely. So with the challenges, they're enormous. And you don't get to hear this before. You don't usually get to hear this information before you fly out.
So lots of you who travel abroad have gone to school in Ghana, done the undergrad, and want to move out there to continue with the graduate studies. With respect to our academics here, and how we study here, and that happens out there, what are some of the major similarities or differences that you can also share with us?
Well, it's totally different. Totally different. The similarities are, of course, you have a teacher in front of you teaching just as you do in Ghana, but it's more of students instructor based. So in the classroom here, there's a lot expected from the students. The difference is in Ghana, you're in the classroom, the professor is like, I would say, the boss. You don't get to challenge the boss. You are mostly sitting down, looking up to this experienced academic talking to you. They ask questions, and then you also talk back. Usually you are even called to before you can even talk. Here, it is really student-centered. There's that opportunity for all of you I mean, the student and the professor to interact, and they're expecting a lot. For you, if you're in graduate school, getting a PhD like this, most of our classes are what we call the seminar classes. It means that articles are pumped onto you. You have to read the articles. We come to the class. It is not the professor's job to teach. You are going to discuss these topics. So there's more reading. It's very reading intensive. It's writing intensive. And these experiences I'm sharing are my experiences in my field of study. You know, I am in the humanities and the arts, so we do more of writing and reading. If you are in the sciences where you have to work in the lab, you may have a different experience. But even with that, it's still one which is very much more practical. You realize that there's a lot of demand from you, the student, to do a lot of work so that you come to the class to share. You are not dependent on the professor. It's not the professor's duty to come and spoon feed you. You have to really ride along, right? So it's much more. And again, technology, this is purely technologically based. You do not have paper assignment where you are doing your assignment on paper and submit it to the teacher. Everything is internalized technologically, and it can be very stressing. I mean, and I'm not even joking about this. In my previous school, we were used to a different software. When I moved to the University of Kentucky, it's also a totally different software. And I'm telling you, up till now, I'm not even used to this software that we use here for our classes. That's where you access your reading materials. That's where you submit your assignment. That's where professors are grading you. There is a place for announcement. So, everything is just connected technologically. And so you need to ride along. It's just email communication. If you're talking to your professor, you need to talk to someone, you need to reach out to your colleague. Everything is that's technologically centered. And, it is usually different from what we are used to in Ghana. Wow. Well, and you need to ride along because this is what we do in the classroom.
Yeah.
So there's a complete shift. There's a complete difference that comes with its own stresses, but you will need to adjust and cope with it.
Interesting to hear that. But also, I know that in such places, there are lots of Ghanaians, lots of Nigerians or, African people that you can relate with. How do you make sure that you connect with your fellow brothers and sisters to keep so you don't get to be lonely, and also for, academic purposes, connecting with your fellow Africans there? How's that like?
No, you are very right. But as I indicated earlier, these are based on my own experiences, based on where the schools I attended. I was very fortunate. Ohio University had a very strong Ghanaian population. A lot of people also from the University of Cape Coast, from Ohio University. So, it was like home away from home, or how do they say it? Like you move from home and then you dump yourself in another community where you have a lot of people. At the University of Kentucky, we also have quite a number of Ghanaian students. So, yes, once you get into such environments, you definitely would want to link with people like that because they are the people who can actually guide you through the process so that you don't find yourself wanting. The unfortunate thing is there are other people in other universities in the United States which are usually not so much diverse as I have experienced. So I had a friend who was attending the university in South Dakota, and I used to tease him because sometimes when I ask him, so are there Ghanaian students? He's like, no, KOJO, no Ghanaian student. I mean, no black student, actually, not even African American. It's a purely white university. So there are people who also go through that. So if you are in that situation, then you may have to find alternative ways of trying to interact with other people. But if you are in universities such as mine, where we have those strong communities, of course, it is very important. They are very welcoming. People are always open. I mean, they welcome you with open arms, trying to help you to integrate into their system. So the communities are there. That is, if you are fortunate to be in a university where we have those communities, you will definitely want to rely on them. And they are very, very supportive. There are people, myself, for instance, I get connected to people who even are yet to transition from Ghana here. So we have those kind of conversations in terms of accommodation, how the process is like, just to prepare you kind of post-departure orientation sort of, so that when you get here, you don't find yourself wanting. So universities that have these communities, the communities have been very, 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 very supportive. Ohio University, for instance, I keep saying that it was awesome. So my experience there, even though there was some still the cultural shock, because we had that strong community and
Yeah.
connectedness, we were able to overcome most of them quite often. But if you are not in universities like that, then it could be very stressful and daunting.
Now, I want to touch on extracurricular activities because it's something that I've monitored with some of my friends who are outside Ghana. How is that important? Fusing that into the schoolwork for students out there. Sometimes in Ghana it becomes very difficult. Lots of people are always on their books. But how important is it when it comes to extracurricular activities there?
Yeah, so you're right. If you're not very careful here too, you may not have the time to do it. I always tell my friends that it was after I got to the United States that I realized that 24 hours is not so much enough, because it's never been enough for me. 24 hours has never been enough for me. And I'm like, oh God, you should just make our 72 hours so that we can actually do things that we need to do. So in terms of extracurricular activities, if you're not very careful, you will be so much engrossed with academic activities such that you lose sight on that, even though they are available. But sometimes I talk to my friends and they're like, you have this paper, you have this deadline, you have this to do, you have that to do, you have this to do. And so they don't even have interest in doing that. I advise them to consciously, it must be a very deliberate action to say that you want to get into extracurricular activities, like going to the movies, like I'm not used to American football, but there are a few times I've gone to the stadium to watch American football, and it's not just because I understand whatever is happening, it's just because I just want to change my environment. Sometimes I would like to take some trips. You have the International Student and Scholar Services that kind of sometimes tries to get international students some feel of the area. So there are sometimes excursions sort of that are organized, which people can join. Like I said, because of the stress, sometimes people are not so much interested in doing these kind of things. So yes, the extracurricular activities are there, but it depends on you as a student, your ability to kind of draft your time in such a way that it does not overlap with your academic life, which is usually so much demanded. So personally, my experience, I get into extracurricular activities, students, governance, and all that. I participate, and it's because I have structured my time in ways that I can be able to navigate and balance those things, those academics and those extra activities without falling short of the other. So yes, they are there, but you would need to adjust and find time to be able to have a balance.
All right, Kojo. So as we wrap up on this, what will be the message as somebody who's been to Ohio University, University of Kentucky, for people who are hoping to study abroad? Also, what will be the message to them before we wrap up on the conversation?
Okay, my message is those of you who are in Ghana and want to come, well, I'm encouraging you to come. The things I said are things just to prep you, not to scare you. Sometimes people are saying, oh, you're making it scary. No, it's just to prepare your mind that, well, this is it. It's not going to be all rosy. Again, before you come, stop making promises, because I know what I'm talking about. People think, oh, I'm going to.
What promises are you talking about?
So I'm going to buy houses. I'm going to build as a student. Please, no. Let your family way back home know that you are a student. Students live on stipends. International students are not allowed to work. You work only 20 hours on campus. If you do more than 20 hours out of campus, you're going to violate your visa status. So please, relatives who also have their family members in the United States studying, just relax it, take it easy on them in terms of finances. Please, they are not working, they are students. So that they can have the clear mindset to learn. After the school, if they get a job, they're going to sponsor you and give you all that you need. So it's a good venture. Try it, but prepare your mind that it's not going to be all rosy.
All right, it's been exciting and interesting talking to you because you're there. Also, I know that when it comes to when the Ghanaian artists come around, you guys try to go and release their tensions more and enjoy yourself. So
yeah, it's necessary.
Okay, very necessary. Thank you very
It's
much.
necessary. And let me just chip in this quickly before you go. In July 25th to 28th, the Graduate Student Association of Ghana is having our first maiden congress. The first time all Ghanaian students, graduate students in the United States are meeting. So if you happen to be around in the United States, you can pass by University of Maryland, College Park for that ceremony.
Okay, great. We'll be there. Thank you very much, Victor KOJO DEI, for speaking to us this morning on the Morning Rush. KOJO DEI is he's a PhD student at the University of Kentucky in the United States of America. Was at Ohio University, and yeah. So anyway, those of who are planning to, I like the last bit though. Family members.
Oh, that's important. That's very important.
And they send the buy us this, send us dollars and all that. But anyway, we'll see how that goes.